Kamil, well, excited to have you. Great to have you. It's been a while since we chatted before.
It's been a couple of years.
Couple of years. The first time, first time on video, which is which is awesome. I mean, this is great. Now, I wanted to talk about. We will talk about the video, and the first one I wanted to talk about was YouTube ads. How did you start with YouTube ads? What was the moment that you realized, like, we need to do something with that?
That's a great question. I think we were just maximizing the search stuff. And in B2B, a lot of people naturally either start with search or LinkedIn. But then once you hit a certain threshold, you're like, okay, I'm maximizing out my search intent, my search keywords, everything else. What else is there? And then YouTube is like the natural extension we thought of, especially because if the client has a lot of existing video content that you can leverage, it makes a ton of sense. I think like you can run YouTube is a bit of a, also think YouTube is a different audience than you reach on LinkedIn. So I think
In what sense?
if people are not active on LinkedIn, but you're trying to reach them, they're probably on YouTube because YouTube is just such a massive network. So I think YouTube is like an incremental channel on top of LinkedIn. I think for a lot of B2B companies, you need to reach a wider audience from our ICP, not just the 5% that's in market. And I think YouTube is a great way to reach those people because you can do more storytelling, you can do more wider reach ads, you can do more engaging product videos. Like there's a lot of flexibility versus like on LinkedIn or something, you only do static or like, typical talking head ads or whatever.
How do you think YouTube has changed in the context of B2B? Because a couple of years ago, everybody thought of YouTube as a joke for B2B, like not necessarily.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right.
I think video became a big thing. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think in general, the world moved towards video, like Facebook started prioritizing video. A lot of these publications started doing video, and I think people just woke up to the fact that video lets you do a lot more than static images do and display does and all this stuff. And I think a lot more companies started investing like Monday.com and Grammarly and all these guys. They start popping up on YouTube all the time. Like every single time I would turn on YouTube, like I have a Grammarly ad on that. So I think people saw that and then they woke up to the fact that, if these big names are doing it and they're investing quite heavily in it, then there must be something here for us to investigate too. I think people think it has a higher barrier to entry because video tends to be, like the perception is it needs to be higher quality, higher production value, higher whatever. But I think you can start pretty small. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, we just chatted about before rolling about you just need
While
an
ring
iPhone and the ring light just getting close to your face and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a controversial thought about YouTube if you were to just get one of those sound bites, something that maybe a majority of B2B audience is not aware of, or maybe thinking in a different way about YouTube?
I think YouTube is not a direct response channel. So I don't know if that's controversial or not, to be honest, but a lot of B2B marketers, we tend to think of, and I was this way as well, dollar in, dollar out. So if I'm going to put $1 in, how am I going to measure the dollar out? But I think YouTube is different because you put $1 in, you don't necessarily tie it to $1 out. But if you look at it more broadly, then you see the impact of YouTube on other channels. So for example, whenever we run YouTube ads, we just see direct organic conversions go up. Now there's no direct correlation to there's no UTM, somebody clicked on the link and they have a UTM attached and we can say that it came from YouTube. But when we look at when we model the data and we look at spend on YouTube, when we start running YouTube ads and how frequently we run them, and we look at the trend line of YouTube and direct organic, it kind of follows the same path. So there's a very high correlation between the two. I think YouTube is mostly viewed on bigger screens like TV or whatever. So nobody's gonna click on the TV and go to your website and register for something. But I think it just builds that brand affinity over time. So I think on YouTube, also the other thing is I think B2B marketers tend to be shy about frequency. We're like, oh no, we don't want our frequency too high, whatever. But I think it takes a lot more frequency to get in people's head than you think it does. So you constantly show up in a certain way. It's Grammarly shows up all the time. Eventually I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to use Grammarly. Like, I think it's one of
Absolutely.
those things that just takes time to build.
Yeah, the bigger the deal, right? Like that's just one of those common equations. The bigger the deal, the more touches. And I think somebody said it was like 25 average touches. They kind of looked at the whole sequence. But if we look
Yes.
at the context of YouTube, it's certainly way more than just one or two that B2B marketers tend to think about, right?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And I also think a lot of you can't just take your webinar and repurpose it for YouTube. Like, you have to think about the medium. Uh, like, just like when when Facebook was first like coming out, a lot of big brands were taking their TV ads and then trying to run them on Facebook as is, and they were not working because they were not thinking about how do people react, like how do people engage on Facebook, what's the right kind of video for Facebook. So then they started building native Facebook, like vertical videos, shorter, 3 second, 10 second, not 2 minute ads. I think YouTube is the same, where you don't just take your existing creative and run it as is on YouTube. I think you have to do a little bit of more work to like just chop it up for a YouTube audience. And you probably know this better than I do. Yeah, contextuality.
Yeah. What about the clients that you work with? You have implemented YouTube ads. What type of content have you tried to put on YouTube ads, and what you have seen that works better maybe than other types of content?
I mean, I think short, engaging stuff works better than long, boring stuff. It sounds very basic to say that, but when we run like videos, we look at watch times and average cost per view and how much people watch it. I think like the shorts format works better on YouTube than like I am talking to a camera, blah, 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 like fast cuts and more engaging, some graphics in there, rather than somebody just talking to a screen, which might work on YouTube, LinkedIn. Like that,
Yeah.
that's on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. Like if I put this video on LinkedIn, it might do actually pretty well on LinkedIn, but on YouTube, it would not do well at all. So I think
mean
it's like
A person, a talking head in
like
the
a
frame.
talking head. Yeah. Like a
Yeah.
frame with a person talking and like the big subtitles. I don't think that works on YouTube. I think on YouTube, you have to have like different screens and different cuts, like people transition in and out. On LinkedIn, it works fantastic. Like that's sort of the primary format on LinkedIn.
Lower
So,
bar.
yeah. And I think, I don't know what the reason is. There might be that LinkedIn is just B2B, primarily you're in that business mindset and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to listen to this guy because it's well known. But in YouTube, you literally have like 3 seconds because before somebody can skip your ad. So you want to get that message core value prop in within those 3 seconds, make sure that they're hooked in. On LinkedIn, it's like you can be droning on, and I think it's not so bad.
What about these videos that companies that have that you work with that have video content and they are a good fit for YouTube ads? Are you repurposing certain types of content that is small, short, already have motion in it for YouTube, or are you guys creating net new for YouTube ads ad campaigns? How do you
We
approach
don't
that?
create net new. We take some of their existing stuff. Our creative team then does some editing on it. So we'll add some graphics. We'll add an intro, outro, add some more cuts into it, do some background music, like some of that stuff. We don't shoot net new content because a lot of companies already have case study videos and product videos and this and that. So we just try to repurpose what they have. But instead of running it as a 2 minute ad, we kind of do like a 30 second cut off it and then try to run that.
Right. For the context, for the audience listening, what type of clients does your agency work with primarily for the size industry?
B2B SaaS, primarily selling into mid-market or enterprise. We also work with some SMB freemium type companies, but we tend to over-index on the mid-market enterprise people. So they have longer sales cycles, their product high complexity, it's not a transactional sales cycle. So YouTube is like an additional touch point where we have with the prospects where we can show them more of the product, more of the value prop, versus if I'm running like an SMB thing that I might not need so many touch points.
And how do these guys, mid to enterprise, they view video marketing, video in general? What would you say the general consensus at the moment as we've got
I don't
more
think they
of
view
that?
it favorably. I think a lot of them are like, let's just run on LinkedIn and that's all we need because our audience is on LinkedIn. I'm like, sure, your audience is on LinkedIn, but they're not on LinkedIn all the time. But they might be on search, they might be on Facebook, they might be on YouTube, they might be on Reddit, they might be on other channels. So you kind of have to diversify your channel mix. Because I think a lot of B2B companies put like 99% of their spend on Google search and LinkedIn, and like they're like, all right, that's it, my job is done. But the fact is, these people are also like watching YouTube videos. They're on Reddit looking at threads. They might be on Twitter. They might be on other places. So like you want to reach as many people as you can from the market you're trying to sell to. When you're just running on search, you might be hitting the people who are actively searching for something. When you're just doing LinkedIn, you might be hitting people who are active on LinkedIn. But like, not every audience, not every person is active on LinkedIn, not every person is active on search. So like, you want to just maximize the surface area.
It's one of the most common complaints about YouTube that we just spoke a little bit earlier about attribution. That I actually don't see complete attribution. There's no UTM. There's no direct link to the fact that these campaigns have generated dollar in, dollar out. Yet there is a correlation if you're able to piece the facts together, if you were able to kind of look at it in a more complex way, like you were just describing about the organic bump that you could see when you're running YouTube ads. Is this something more like we need a mindset shift that needs to happen for folks to start looking beyond the direct correlation?
I think that's a hairy topic. I think we grew up, a lot of B2B marketers, we grew up in a world where it was very easy to track people online. We had a click attribution for every single action they took, and it was like wonderful, amazing stuff. I think increasingly that's becoming more and more difficult. People are more doing cross-device, like they might be on their phone, they might be watching YouTube on their TV. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot more cookie blockers. There's a lot more privacy stuff. And then there's also all these brand channels that don't get measured just based on click attribution. And I think that's where the opportunity is for a lot of B2B companies as well. I don't think we need to stop measuring things. I think we just need to change how we measure things. So instead of looking at click, touch points, blah, 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 it's more marketing mix modeling, more statistical modeling to understand over a long enough period of time, if I invest in X, I also see a correlation between X going up and Y going up. And we've seen that a lot of times where even as basic as like when we do paid search ads for non-branded terms, the organic traffic also goes up. Like there's so much spillover from paid media to other channels, and it doesn't, in some cases we've seen as much as 60% of direct conversions are actually tied to some kind of paid media activity, but it doesn't, because it says direct traffic, you'd never know that. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, when direct traffic goes up, my paid media spend goes up, and everything happens sort of in tandem. And when I turn off my paid media spend, that number goes down. So there's a very strong 40 to 60% of stuff that happens in the direct that we call direct is actually coming from paid, like YouTube, Pixels, whatever else.
Right. It's also quite a bit harder to compete, and we certainly very unlikely B2B felt that now on organic content, written content, where there's this influx of AI, hyper well-written stuff that is about to hit the market. I don't think it might happen yet because a lot of B2B didn't really experience what Cloud 3.5 Sonnet could do, what 1.5 Pro Google could do really, because there's just some stuff that is absolutely incredible. And B2B I don't think it even happened yet. But when that happens,
I think already all the SEO opportunities have been taken up. It's very hard to compete with HubSpot on marketing related search queries. Anything marketing, B2B marketing, HubSpot shows up in the first 5 places. And for you to beat HubSpot at that game is almost impossible. But with YouTube or other emerging channels, there's that opportunity because it's still there's no big winners yet. And the behavior on YouTube is much different than the behavior on search. There's YouTube SEO that I frankly don't know much about, but that's a whole opportunity there. There's leveraging video in other channels outside of YouTube. That's a whole opportunity. TikTok is another opportunity. There's not a lot of, for B2B, there's those big channels like search and LinkedIn, but you have to think about the pockets where Reddit is I feel like a big opportunity for a lot of brands.
100%. Reddit is huge. It's so undervalued. I was surprised that Reddit is viewed as this like water cooler for like geeks. And in fact, it is a hyper effective channel which ranks on Google. It ranks so well. Just put a thread that has like one response and on a hyper specific long tail topic that generates a lot of traffic.
Yeah. Back in the day, Quora used to do that. Quora now died a very ugly death.
Yeah.
But Quora was that thing where you search for something, blah, 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 blah. Quora would show up and then So I think like there's always opportunities when the landscape is changing. I think right now we're seeing a shift in the marketplace happening with AI coming in, AI generated content. Google is now like trying to understand what SEO, good content looks like. And like it's maybe over indexing on Reddit because it knows more, it's UGC stuff, it uses generated stuff. Same with YouTube because it's people. I know AI videos gonna come and we're gonna be fake AI and avatars soon enough, but for now, I think YouTube is the only thing where you can generally tell somebody's a person actually talking, or is it like AI generated stuff?
Absolutely. That's a good point. And where do you see, like in general, on average, without necessarily going into many details, the most common complaint or a barrier for B2B companies that you work with to go in video? Is this the budget, time, no direct correlation with the results?
I think it's budget to a certain degree because if you only have $50K to spend, you're going to spend it on what you know definitely works, which is LinkedIn and search. I think it's very hard to convince somebody to put some of their money into YouTube, which is, it's not a direct response channel. So like, it's like, hey, you have to, it's like trying to convince somebody to invest in long-term brand efforts. Like it's very hard to do that. The YouTube, I don't think is a long-term brand effort. I think YouTube can pay off in a couple of months, but it's not you put $100 in and you get $200 out kind of a thing. But I think it complements a lot of the stuff you do on LinkedIn paid search. I think the other is that they've never just thought about it. Like a lot of B2B brands don't even have a YouTube channel, or they have something and they have like 3 videos on it and they were updated like 3 years ago. And I'm like, guys, like
common.
Like they just don't invest in it. And I think it's because they're understaffed, they don't have people. There's a lot of reasons for that. Marketing teams in general tend to be smaller, and like they already have one social community person. They're doing, social media, and they're doing some community, and they're doing something else. They're like, I don't want to do YouTube. Like that's a whole other thing. Like there's just resourcing stuff. I think from an organic point of view, they just don't invest in it. It does rank so well on organic search. Like YouTube videos show up all the time on organic search, but they just don't see that they keep hammering that SEO written content stuff. And they don't see the opportunity, like YouTube is a different angle of the same thing. From a paid side point of view, it's the direct core, like, hey, how do I know this works? And like, we're like, hey, look at this, this is how we know it works, but sometimes it's hard to convince people that it works. It's also just, we don't have the content, we don't have the videos. You do have the videos, it's very hard. Like you were telling me earlier, it's not hard to look good on video. So like, it's easy enough to produce a good video, but the unwillingness to invest in it. But I think the good thing is like, you go to a conference, you do a webinar, you do something, you do a customer event, you can take a lot of the video snippets and put it on YouTube. Like you don't have to create new content, you can repurpose a lot of stuff.
Well, we've started auditing YouTube, B2B YouTube channels on this podcast, and we'll release a bunch of episodes about it. And it's incredible of how massive opportunity there is. I mean, second search engine in the world, YouTube. And so, for example, we know that paid campaigns work well, but on YouTube, by far the majority of B2B YouTube channels are not managed or completely mismanaged. They have the videos that don't make a lot of sense. They have the videos that are not engaging. They have titles and thumbnails are not optimized. There's no clear theme. There's no clear value to the viewer. Now, the good news is this is actually not that difficult to change. And it's not really it's not super rocket science. You don't need to be producing Netflix specials. But my point is, like, there are a few examples. We've done it, like clay.com and Ahrefs, which is a big channel. But there are quite a few other smaller channels that have figured this out. And you run a YouTube ad and you have the YouTube as an organic page that pulls the views constantly because it's super hyper retroactive compared to LinkedIn. You're going to get good results, but it's unproven. There are not a lot of cases. It takes time. there's a small team, there's a specific skill set, and that's, I think, where we are, where I think there's this early majority haven't arrived, and then there's few fellas really too far ahead that you could barely see them.
It's the same as like if you look at blogs 10 years ago, a lot of them were like press releases. They were like, a blog was on a blog, it was a press release of a company putting out a press release, it was on the blog, and you're like, what is this? But then eventually we caught on to the fact that blog should be a publication. You can't just talk about your press releases, you have to talk about the problems your customers are having. And there's a lot of use cases for a blog as a content machine. I think the same is going to happen to YouTube. I just think it's going to take longer because it's just so new, and nobody's, like except for Clay and Href and maybe Semrush, like
HubSpot,
Grammarly, maybe like there's only a handful of cases, and HubSpot and the other thing is like comparing a small 50% company to HubSpot is also like it's just an unfair so I think like with the I hate this word personally, but with the B2B creator stuff going on, I think YouTube might actually pick up more.
In whatever way, hiring B2B creators, collaborating, or some kind of a way.
Creating content. Yeah. I think it's just gonna use but like it's easier for me to sit at a keyboard and write something up, and it's harder for me to like actually shoot video personally. So I think like that is also just a barrier. Like how comfortable are you being on camera and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like I know, like I told you years ago, I hate doing video, but now I'm doing video because that's just what it calls for. Yeah.
It's one of those things. Exactly. I think it's a really good comparison with a blog, but the complexity and the cost and the barrier to entry are very, very, very high. Return is uncertain, but everybody needs to do it, but it's hard. And like, what are we going to do? I've heard a really good, it was a quote on LinkedIn. It was something along the lines, the customer doesn't care. You don't do it, somebody else will do it across the road. Your competitor, they'll go and watch that stuff.
Yeah. Also, I think because it's a higher barrier to entry, there's a more opportunity for somebody to come and do it and be that, like, just do it right. And like, we're trying to do our YouTube stuff, like YouTube video content for B2B brands. Like, there's opportunity because there's not so many people doing it. So it's just a more greenfield opportunity that somebody will capture eventually, or a bunch of companies will capture. It's just a matter of time. But like, I also think it's like with written content, you can skip a bunch of stuff and you can skim read in. But with YouTube, if the video is bad and the audio is bad, then it just doesn't work. Like, it has to be a minimum quality bar of something.
We have reviewed a channel. I don't remember the name. We were trying to be very, very nice as much as possible, but these guys were one of those examples where they produced they had 408 videos on their YouTube page. They have really spent a lot of money. They've got really good B2B influencers. They partnered with sales guys, and none of that works. It's unfortunate, but they got terrible results. They got great thumbnails. They're trying to do the titles. They're putting a lot of money. They've got in the frequency and it doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is they missed fundamentals. They talk terrible topic.
Yes.
There's that intro, a really weird sound. The camera looks weird. It's so unfortunate. And that kind of goes back to who's managing that, and why is that person managing that? It's one of those things that I think it's a really good example. We'll release the breakdown is because yes, you could dump a lot of money, but you need somebody to help you kind of guide you on
somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Because that's a big investment and that kind of gets wasted.
Yeah. I think podcasts were not a thing. Now they're slowly becoming a thing. But if your audio is bad and you just don't have anything interesting to say, you got to have something interesting to say before you do any type of content, really.
It's true. I mean, it's great to listen to. And Gary Vee, I mean, I don't know, guided a lot, but yeah, you start on this free, I think it used to be whatever the platform was. Now it's, I think Shopify who ordered it up, a free podcast platform. I think it was something.fm. And you just start a free podcast. You need to have good content.
But yeah. You need to have you need to have something to say that people would like to listen to.
Exactly.
You can't just say what everybody else is saying. You can't just ramble on for 20 minutes. You need to have some structure, script, intro, whole, whatever, all that stuff. You need to have that.
and then the bar is getting higher. More folks are in video, more folks are in organic, whatever they are, on the high bar to get through the whatever algorithm, because that's just what the algorithm is for. So certainly one of those.
There's just more content.
Exactly. I mean, I was going to ask, in your opinion, what do you think B2B companies listening to this could practically do to help them with their video, or with their, maybe not do video, but with their marketing campaigns, if they have been running traditional paid campaigns that they already did, maybe they have not tried video yet for whatever reason. What channels should they consider? Now, we have spoken a little bit about opportunities that are underexplored, like Reddit, like Twitter, like potential TikTok. What do you think else they should consider that they could actually realistically implement, or at least run a test?
If you're starting with video, I would say start with LinkedIn video ads, because you can learn a lot from what works, because you can target a specific audience. Then I would move on to YouTube. Specifically on YouTube, I would go with more maybe search remarketing, web remarketing campaigns, rather than like starting with prospecting, because those people are already familiar with your brand. They're already looking to something related to what you're selling. So they're like an easier audience to reach, and it's easier to validate it. And I would say it could be as simple as the founder being on video, talking about a certain point of view on they have in the market, or something interesting. It can't just be a product screenshot video, like those screen recorded video things where you saw the product. It can't be that. Like, that is not engaging. That is not interesting. Nobody cares about your product. Like,
it's like a better version of what's it called? One of those screen capture softwares.
Yeah. Like, it can't be a long video you show the product.
Yeah. Thank you, Lou. That's what it is.
It has to be something that people want to pay attention to.
Great. Kamil, the last question on my side, is there something I haven't asked you in this conversation that you wish I did? Maybe something we have skipped, or something we didn't cover? It could be video front. It could be related to demand generation in general. It could be related to shifting of the emphasis from one thing to another thing.
I think over the last 10 years, B2B marketing was so over-indexed on direct response that we kind of lost sight of all the other stuff. And I think the pendulum is slowly moving towards the other side. But my worry is that we move so much towards the other side that we say, don't measure anything at all. And that's not the right message either. Like that, you need both. You need brand stuff that you can't measure but works over the long term. You need stuff that works over the short term. And you need to measure both. It's just that the direct response stuff you can measure on a shorter time frame. The brand stuff you have to measure on a longer time frame. But saying that don't measure anything, that's also wrong, right? Because you're just going to waste one. So I think that there's a happy medium between the two. And I think YouTube nicely fits between both of them. It's not direct response in terms of like you click on an ad and you convert, but you can measure it over a shorter period of time, but you can also run brand campaigns which are longer.
That's a great way to sum it up. Thank you, Kamil. This was the Video First podcast. Kamil, Rexton, everybody. You guys, we'll link. Where should we put the links?
Twitter, LinkedIn, my website.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Those links, and if you guys need demand gen marketing, I mean, I don't know anyone personally better than
Thank you,
agency.
Appreciate it.
And so, I hope you guys found this useful. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back with you with the next episode.